It always begins the same way. She doesn't see you as you are. She sees you as who she imagines you might become. You can feel it in her eyes, can't you? That flicker of something, hope, maybe. Or is it hunger? In that moment you think you are being seen, but you are not. You are being measured, assessed, scanned like a blank canvas waiting for her to paint her masterpiece. But here's the cruel truth. The masterpiece was never you. It never was. Carl Jung warned us about this, not with the soothing words of a motivational speaker, but with the sharp, surgical precision of a man who spent his entire life peering into the abyss of the human soul. He devoted himself to mapping what he called the unconscious, the vast and shadowy territory that moves silently beneath the surface of our awareness. And in that exploration, he uncovered something profoundly unsettling about women. He discovered that women don't simply fall in love with men, they fall in love with the idea of men, with the fantasy, with the projection, and most of the time, they don't even realize they're doing it. You believe she is choosing you, but in truth she is choosing a version of you she built in her own mind, a puppet in her private play, an actor meant to serve her script. And when you stop fitting that role, when you fail to deliver the lines as she has rehearsed them in her imagination, she does not change the story. She changes the actor. Jung called this process projection, specifically the projection of the animus, the inner masculine figure that lives within every woman. When the animus is immature, undeveloped or unchecked, it doesn't guide, it tyrannizes. It becomes the hidden force that drives women to chase dangerous men and dismiss good ones, to argue without reason, to dominate without wisdom, to moralize without accountability. Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He described it as a form of spiritual possession, a state where a woman is no longer acting from her own conscious self, but from the grip of a shadowy masculine fantasy within her psyche. And men, you fall for it. You confuse desire with being known. You mistake being chosen for being understood. You believe her when she tells you that you are different, that you are special, but you are not different. You are simply the newest mask she has placed over the same role she has been casting since childhood. When the mask slips, when the illusion shatters, you are left with confusion, betrayal, humiliation. You wonder what you did wrong. But here's the truth. You didn't do anything wrong. You simply stopped being a convincing actor in a theater that was never your own. Jung warned that the only escape from this cycle is through individuation, the lifelong, brutal, often lonely process of becoming whole within yourself. And here is the most uncomfortable truth of all. Most men never begin that journey. You've been conditioned to chase approval, to seek validation, to let women define your worth. As long as you continue to do this, you will play the same role again and again, discarded each time the audience grows bored. Individuation is not glamorous. It is not easy. It requires that you confront the parts of yourself you've buried, the weak, the insecure, the broken. It demands that you stop blaming women for failing to see you and start seeing yourself. Because Jung knew something most men never grasp. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. You don't earn your worth through affection. You earn it by standing alone, awake, responsible, alive. A man who has faced his unconscious cannot be seduced by projection. He is no longer a puppet in someone else's fantasy. He becomes the author of his own story. But the tragedy Jung saw in modern men was not rejection. The tragedy was that men willingly betray themselves, molding their souls into shapes they believe will be accepted. They call it compromise. They call it love. But Jung called it what it really is: self-betrayal. And women can sense this. They sense it with uncanny precision. The very things you believe will make her love you, obedience, predictability, availability, become the reasons she loses attraction. Why? Because, as Jung observed, the feminine instinct is not drawn to comfort. It is drawn to mystery, to risk, to the man she cannot fully define or control. The moment you make yourself entirely knowable, entirely pliable, you stop being lovable. You become invisible, replaceable, forgettable. Yet here lies the paradox. Men fear being alone more than they fear being fake. You would rather live in a mask than face solitude without applause. But Jung warned that unless a man embraces solitude, he will never be free. Individuation, he said, is a path that requires you to die before you die, to burn away every false layer until only the real remains. And that journey is lonely, terrifyingly lonely, because when you walk it, you begin to see things that others refuse to see. You see the masks, the games, the illusions people cling to, and when you reflect those truths, you become hated. Not because you are cruel, but because you are a mirror, and people despise mirrors that reveal what they wish to ignore. This is why so few men dare to take the path. It requires you to stop playing the savior. It forces you to confront the bitter reality that projection is theft, that every fantasy you play into robs both you and her of something real, and the woman who once called you her hero may one day call you her enemy, not because you betrayed her, but because you failed to live up to the myth she created for you in silence. And so Jung's warning echoes through the ages. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. Romantic relationships are the stage where this plays out most tragically. Men and women enter them not as whole beings, but as carriers of projections. And until you take responsibility for your own inner world, you will keep playing the fool in hers. The escape is not found in blaming her. It is not found in demanding she change. The escape is found in turning inward, in doing the work of individuation, in learning to stand without applause. Because the man who no longer fears solitude, who no longer seeks validation, is untouchable. He cannot be manipulated by fantasy. He cannot be reduced to a character in someone else's play. And here's the paradox Jung understood best. When you stop performing, when you stand rooted in yourself, women will feel more drawn to you. Not because you need them, but precisely because you don't. That is the magnetic power of a man who has chosen himself. And if one day you meet a woman who has faced her own shadow, who has confronted her animus, who has burned away her illusions, you will recognize her instantly. She will not demand performance. She will not ask for worship. She will not project a myth onto you. She will stand beside you as an equal, whole sovereign awake. That kind of love is not born of need. It is born of freedom. It demands nothing but offers everything. Few will ever know it, because few are willing to endure the solitude required to reach it. But if you do, if you walk that terrifying road, you will discover the rarest of truths. You no longer need to be chosen. You are already whole. And from that wholeness, you can finally love, not as a mask, not as a puppet, but as a man.